Find you CPT AM 820. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this Saturday morning. And if you're watching live, well, thank you, too. So anybody wants to rehear anything that we say, if you do a search on YouTube or Facebook about the HomeBuyer's Hour, you'll be happy to see our podcast. And you can also, any podcast provider will have it as well. But I'd like to go ahead and introduce the people that are in the studio with me. Patrick Loftus, he's my favorite attorney. Don't tell the other ones. But Patrick, tell everybody why you're my favorite and how do people get hold of you.
Good morning. Patrick Loftus, Loftus Law. I like it when people find me on social media because calls and text messages from weird numbers, it stresses me out, man. On Instagram, find me Loftus_law, and on TikTok at Loftus Law. Why am I your favorite? Because I'm the only lawyer you know with this haircut.
Oh, that's not true. I actually do know another one with a cool-looking man bun, and I'll never put a man bun in there. All right? I just don't have the hair to make it.
I don't like that.
The question is, who had the man bun first?
This is a good question. I don't know the answer. I don't know who he's talking about. So.
Patrick had the man bun first. So, and the man with the questions is Matthew Thomas. Matthew, if you don't mind, tell us about you, your brokerage, and why today you are my favorite real estate broker.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'll take the spotlight for the day. Yeah. My name is Matt Thomas. I'm a real estate agent with Baird Warner Real Estate here in Chicago. I got into real estate January 2018. I left my corporate sales job and decided to go full-time and haven't looked back since. Today, I think I'm sitting here just because, you gentlemen are wonderful to have breakfast and coffee with. So
Yay.
Shout out to you. But I think we have similar thoughts on the industry and how to do good business in this industry. And also, we're at sort of a moment where there's lots of change, not so positive change if we think about things going on with hacks and all sorts of craziness in our world. But it's a good time to have a conversation with some people that have level heads through it all.
No, I like to hear that a lot. And, yeah, I just wish more and more people would realize who the most important person in the room is. And it's not any one of us.
None of us.
All right, no. Put your finger down, Patrick. It's not you either. All right, the most important person is going to be our clients. And once we realize that, then we're all going to become good professionals. And my favorite mortgage person, and Joey, I always like to get an update on what's going on. I was doing a little bit of research, and please tell me if I'm right or wrong, but this is the fourth week in a row that interest rates have dropped. Is that true?
Well, yeah. I'm not muted. Great. So, fourth week in a row that... Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think I threw a curveball at him right out the get-go.
No, you didn't.
Just realized he's on the show.
Usually I get some nasty echo in my headphones when I'm talking, but I didn't, so I thought I was muted, but I wasn't. Very odd. Anyway, apparently my headphones are working properly today. So the 10-year Treasury has been dropping for about 4 or 5 weeks now. So as that has dropped, the mortgage rates have dropped. MBS, mortgage-backed securities, continue to rise. When mortgage-backed security prices rise or costs rise, rates come down, right? So we are, for the first time since September 14th, at a yield of under 4.3% on the 10-year Treasury. And, of course, there is the relationship between the Treasury and mortgages. The typical relationship over time has always been at about 2%. However, of late, the last 3 years, we'll call it COVID, there's been about a 3% yield. So if we are showing a 4.2% yield in the Treasury and the current delta is 3% between the yield and what you would expect the mortgage rate to be on a 30-year, you'd be looking at 7.25% read area on conventional, which is significantly lower than we were just a month and a half ago when we were
it's almost
we were definitely into the 8s. Yeah. Yes,
I think
it is.
it's almost like 90
nice.
basis, right?
It's yes, it is. Yeah, basis points. So a basis point is 100 basis points equals 1%. So
Thank you. That's always
there you go.
Always my little pet peeve is when we start talking lingo or jargon. where it comes in there and we don't make it the people understand.
It's just 100 bips, man.
100 bips.
Come on.
It's just 100 bips, baby.
Come on, keep
Come
on.
on.
Here's another interesting stat. Mortgage applications to purchase a home increased 5% for the week, but we're still 19% lower than the same week 1 year ago. Now, I get it. Last year and the year before was just stupidly crazy.
Ridiculous.
All right?
I think
Ridiculous.
the activity last year was through the roof. I actually was just looking at market time, and if you go back to last winter, which is what we're heading into, market time didn't move at all from the fall through the winter into the spring. It hovered at 14 days for most neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's unusual.
So normally we're
days.
seeing
Wow.
close to 40 days, or we're seeing close to 60 days in some neighborhoods, and it just didn't move.
No,
and so now we're heading into winter, and everyone goes, well, isn't it going to be slower? Not if we're using last year as a gauge, right? And even though activity is down, every slight tick down that interest rate takes, my phone starts ringing more, right?
Yep.
More showing requests, more offers made.
It makes sense. I mean, and just to give people sort of a basis for this, like traditionally, hello, bless you.
Sorry.
Traditionally, when you talk about market time, it shrinks during the spring summer period, and it expands during the fall winter period. So when Matt talks about market time staying absolutely steady during that time when we expect it to expand, that's a signal of increased activity. So even the fact that it could have just expanded less than average, but no, it didn't do anything. So
It was like a flat line, which is crazy. We just don't normally see that with winter. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting winter.
It will be, and I'm actually excited for next year. I mean, you always get the naysayers that talk about the big old bubble. Sooner or later, maybe, I don't know, but there's still a low demand.
not in Chicago. I mean, we're slow and steady here, man, and that's to our benefit, right? Anyone who's trying to buy a home to live in and become crazy wealthy off of it, it's not as likely as if you were on one of the coasts, right? But the fast expansion also comes with the consequence of contraction from time to time. So take our favorite our favorite state that everyone loves to hate on, Florida. They're very boom and bust, and right now they're struggling with all sorts of things, and that's a conversation we can get into some other time. But here we're slow and steady, and people by and large are still working.
That makes a lot of sense. I see the roller coaster isn't as high here, and then I listen to people in California, and their ups and downs are crazy.
Yeah, it's just a different market, entirely, and of course, you can't really talk about California as a real estate market any more than you can talk about Illinois as one real estate market, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, if you go down to
Chicago is its own separate beast from the rest of Illinois too. I mean
even the
everything's
78
submarkets.
neighborhoods.
And then you have the 78, and oh, by the way, we have all the nicknames for those neighborhoods we have to break out too. So
the creatively,
nobody ever knows what you're talking about.
I think we're in Gladstone Park right now. I only know that from the banners when I drove over here. I could see.
I don't know. We might be in Northwest Jefferson Park, depending on which real estate broker you talk to. I'm in West Bucktown. Wait, isn't this Humboldt Park? You be quiet.
Just try telling someone the difference between Irving Park and Old Irving, and wait for the debate that follows.
Oh boy.
I didn't know there was.
I was ready for someone to call me out when I said 78 neighborhoods. I go, wait a minute, there's only 77.
Hey, I'm giving you that one because the 78th is being built, and I have confidence they'll finish that.
Lincoln
Slowly but
Yards,
surely.
exactly.
Well,
that's where I'm going.
I thought 78 was the one down on the river.
There's two,
over
so
by
you
me.
could make an argument that Lincoln Yards is its own neighborhood, which theoretically, if it comes to fruition, it will be. But the 78 is its own development project, which is on the south side, right on the south bank of the river there.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
And so they already started with the Reed building, which I think is the first building technically of the 78 project.
Yeah.
There's a massive vision for that, which is years and years to come. But
yeah, the connection of Wells and what's the other W one that goes by
with Wabash?
No, it goes by Sox Park, which now I'm going to get roasted by my friends who know I'm a Sox fan. So anyways,
I got ammunition now. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
So they're connecting, basically Chinatown with the South Loop.
Yeah, they got to do the ferries, right?
I mean, they're literally. Why am I drawing a blank on this? They're connecting basically, where is it? The Roosevelt collection. You'll now be able to go underneath Roosevelt, just between Roosevelt collection and the river, which before there, that was a dead end. So they're building out that connection, which is going to be nice to have another north-south to get places due south, because right now it's basically State Street.
It's tough, no lies. So when I look for guests to come on the show, one of the hardest, I think, questions that I ask people is going to be, why choose you? What makes you unique? What's different? Why should I work with you? And I asked you that question this morning, and you came back and talked about giving, and you talked about Habitat for Humanity, which I think is a fantastic organization. But please, if you don't mind, expound on that. Tell me what you do as a Berkshire Hathaway, what you do with the program, how you get people involved. What do you do to contribute to that organization? How does it work?
Baird Warner.
It's all right. I didn't take it
What
personally.
did I say?
Berkshire Hathaway, but that's
I apologize.
okay.
I meant I meant Baird Warner.
There's a whole bunch of them out
Unbelievable,
there.
Charlie.
I am bad.
The truth of the matter is, whether Berkshire could get involved too, because Habitat needs as much help as they can get.
Yeah.
So, functionally, what
Calling
it
you out,
is
Berkshire.
you're giving. That's right, Berkshire. Come on, step up. What are your numbers? So, if you look at Habitat here, their whole goal is to make affordable housing, right? Or really to give housing to the people most in need of it, people who don't have it. So they're building all around Chicagoland, and they're picking strategically neighborhoods that have really bad problems with housing. And you could pick that apart however you want. They either have high vacancy, they might have a high percentage of properties owned by Cook County that have just been foreclosed on and are sitting there vacant. They might have empty lots, right? And so what Habitat is doing in these communities is actually starting with the housing problem first. And so they'll take entire blocks and build 10, 15, 20 homes, depending on how much space they can get. These are usually 3 to 4 bedroom homes. They have a garage, they have a yard space. It's meant to give a family a space to start.
Now, when that family takes the house, do they own that house?
Yes, they're getting ownership of that house. It's not a rental situation. It's not a leasehold situation. So Habitat is partnering with these families, delivering the home for them, and they become the owner of the home.
Well, okay, let me go criminal Charlie here.
Oh,
all right? Sorry. But what happens if somebody moves in that house and then they go, okay, thank you, and then they go and sell it, for $500,000 or whatever?
I won't get into the T's and C's of Habitat and how they hold those people to their agreements.
I could tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, if
Please.
you happen to know.
Yeah, I don't know specifically, but there are ways of dealing with that. Specifically, the simplest way I can think of is through a deed restriction. So, for example, I've not worked directly in a legal capacity with Habitat, but I've worked on transactions, say, for example, where someone is buying a bank-owned property. Typically with those, they're going to prefer offers from people who are going to be owner occupants as opposed to investors. Now, in order to kind of do a reality check or whatever to prevent someone from being dishonest on that, you can put on the deed something to the effect of this property can't get reconveyed for some period of time. With bank owned, usually I'll see 6 months, a year, perhaps. And there's other kind of deed restrictions that you could. I mean, I would imagine it might be the another way they might set it up is sort of how like IDA does it, where
I was just thinking it's probably very similar to how IDA or Section 8 vouchers, or where you have some kind of process where you have to get approved and then meet certain standards of requirements. And
so with IDA, IHDA, Illinois Housing Development Authority, they have programs where they provide housing assistance. The way I usually see it is through down payment assistance. And Joey, jump in here. You know more about those programs than any of the rest of us in the studio. But anyways, not to sidetrack us too much into a different topic, but Charlie had a question about this. I felt like I had an answer.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, continue. I enjoy hearing about this because I've got some things I want to throw into the mix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want Joey to chime in a little bit too. And Joey, so hear what he's saying about Habitat for Humanity. But I also had a friend of mine post on Facebook, and yes, I'm an old guy that's still on Facebook. And he put up there a meme that said that we should be making sure that every one of our veterans is housed before we do one refugee. All right. And
I agree
don't
with half
get
of
me-
that.
I
I
agree.
agree with that too. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
I
She was
agree with
trapped
But
in
that
the end was going
program
there.
exists. All
Yeah.
right, Joey,
Yeah.
are you familiar with housing for our veterans and the programs that the VA does for them? And they have vouchers too, right?
So Ida used to have a program that was called Welcome Home Heroes, but it got discontinued like 11
that's
years ago.
right.
I forgot.
So
about that.
that's the only one that I am even familiar with, honestly, with how amazing the VA loan is on its own.
Yeah.
You can still combine it with Ida and move forward and have, closing costs covered. Is that always going to be of the best benefit for the veteran? Not necessarily. I like to look at all sorts of options, and if Ida is the option we go with, that's the option we go with, right? But yeah, the Welcome Home Heroes program was awesome. I mean, they offered $10,000 on a 2-year recovery period, which means that if you sell a refinance inside of 2 years, a forgivable period, if you sell a refinance within that 2 years, you would have to pay the prorated amount back based on the time that you closed and the time that you sold a refinance. That's still the case with the IDA programs. However, they have started to offer lower rates, but they expanded the timeline. They're up to 10 years on these grants, or these second mortgages, we should call them, because they do file as a lien. But because of the lower rates that IDA is now offering, the ability to have that 10 years locked in it's not terrible. And the other piece here is, with these programs, if you did refinance, if you did a rate term refinance where you're not taking equity out of the property, you can pay off IDA and not have to deal with the cash out refinance, the loan level pricing adjustment. So rates are usually going to be higher on a cash out refinance than on a rate term refinance. Okay, so when you're refinancing and you're paying off IDA and you're paying off your first mortgage, it's still rate term refinance pricing, so generally friendlier. I went on a tangent, and I'm sorry. We were talking something about veterans, refugees. I don't know. We're somewhere.
No, it's funny because for me, maybe my brain is just clicking in real estate thought. But when I hear these programs, they're solving the two sides of the fundamental problem. One is I don't have access to the funds to get housing, which is what the Veterans Loan or IDA or any of those programs are aimed at. The Habitat for Humanity is focused on the secondary problem, which is there is not suitable housing, even if I could find funds or access to get it. It doesn't exist.
Right.
And so that's where Habitat steps in, right? They're going into West Pullman, where the state of condition of housing is unacceptable in many locations. Building brand new homes that meet all building requirements for the city of Chicago. They're nothing overly luxury, but they're nice quality, and they were meant to last. They'll serve a family and safely serve a family, right?
And in a depressed neighborhood, that helps everybody.
It's huge. It only brings the value up. When you have an entire block that's been redone, it doesn't matter how the families got in there, what aid they were able to get in with. The state of the neighborhood is improving because we're taking those dilapidated buildings out, those empty lots full of trash out, and putting in housing that's feeding the community or serving a need in the community. So that's where, separate, and I won't overspeak on what I know about Habitat and how they review applications for how people get in, but how they're functionally changing the problem is they're building homes in areas where nobody else is and where those people have no access to them.
Yeah, the problem they're solving is that it's not profitable to build a home in certain places. Okay, so if the cost of the cost of building, right, the materials, the time, materials, the work, all that, if all of that ends up being more than what you can sell it for, no housing will be built there. And so an organization like Habitat steps in now, which is awesome, right? Now, to my opinion, an organization with even bigger pockets called, the state or federal government really should be doing more to help with that. And, for example, the city of Chicago really should be, bending over backwards to make it as inexpensive as possible to build homes in these communities.
They are. I'm going to defend the city a little bit. There's a lot of TIF districts that come in there. I go into Lawndale, for example, and that's another neighborhood that I think gets just spun around 180 degrees. And I've gone in there for new construction left and right. I mean, they're building houses down there, blocks of homes. They don't even have gas to them. Everything is solar powered, super efficiency. Everything's electric inside there. They put Mitsubishi heat pumps in there. I mean, these homes are beautiful. And then the whole district, they put movie theaters, shopping district. The city of Chicago is spending a lot of stuff on the infrastructure, making it a great neighborhood.
I mean, that's great. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think more can be done. You know, why does it cost? What does it cost to get a building permit here in the city? It's not cheap. It's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's thousands of dollars even to get a permit to replace your lead water service. You know, it's like
Well,
it's like
there's
$6,000.
a reason for that, because they're responsible for the street. And they have to cut a hole in the street, dig it down, disconnect the old lead water line, put in the new copper water line, and then somebody's got to fix the curbs, the streets, and everything else. That's all included in that permit fee.
Right. So
Holy shit, I know what that means.
but why?
I don't know if we can use that word.
We just did, you know?
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, I'm throwing it right back at you.
That's the most activated I've seen Charlie in a
You
while.
done did it, but
I
no.
love it.
Look, that's all fine and dandy, but we also pay taxes. We pay all kind of taxes, and
Yeah.
so to say that we're going to put that on the individual homeowner, I think it's not really addressing the issue, which is affordability of these particular permits. So if I'm trying to build, let's say I want to go into West Pullman, or I want to go into Englewood, and I want to build a home, and I want to sell it to somebody for a market price, and I want to be able to at least break even. And what could the city do to help? The city could say, well, we're gonna grease the skids here for you, and we're gonna discount or maybe even waive fees for building permits, these kinds of things. I mean, why should it be left to an organization like Habitat for Humanity, which God bless them for what they're doing, but that can be done on much larger scale, and why isn't it for
But I think it is, Patrick. You know that knowledge is power, all right? And the more we know, the more power we have. And these programs do exist. It's finding out about them is kind of the hard part. They're not advertised. That much I know.
Well, that's definitely true. You need to figure out access to them on a broader scale.
that's where you
Why does
come
the information come to us? And as much as I love to be a speaker box for Habitat or for IDA or for any of these programs, but I struggle with the fact that sometimes I am the first person to make someone aware of that, because how realistic is it that I can spread the good word of these programs to everybody?
Well, just like what Patrick mentioned with the lead service line. That's part of the Biden infrastructure plan.
Yeah, it is.
And Chicago's part of that. All of it. In fact, the whole country is part of it,
Oh, yeah, I noticed.
And everything
if
is
you've driven around Chicago, you definitely feel the infrastructure plan right now.
And I live up in Wilmette, and there's it's GIS, and if any one of you guys know what that stands for, but I think it's government infrastructure, something or other like that. But the GIS map will show every single house that has a copper water line and a lead water line. So they're taking inventory now so that they could go ahead and get these grants to get all these things taken care of. So I have my interviews with clients after the inspection, and that's always a big concern, is somebody with lead water. So that's where you explain to them about the alkalytic and the lead phosphate, but more importantly, hey, there's a program that's coming. I mean, anything can get squashed. The leadership could change in the country. I get all that stuff, but anyway, I'm stealing thunder, and I want to get back to.
But let me elaborate really quick on what you just said. So there's a program that exists. Let me tell you how to access it. Get on your phone, download the 311 app, and you can order.
Oh, yeah.
You can order a lead.
Say that again.
The 311 app. Don't call 311. You will be lost in a phone tree that you'll never get out of.
I'm convinced they still have an operator in a room. I
don't know what they're doing.
Ridiculous.
I don't know what they're doing. But get the app. You can order not only a free test to see. So what Charlie just said is that the water department adds phosphates to the water, which creates a barrier between the lead and your water, which solves the problem of having lead in your water when you have lead water lines bringing water to your home. But it's understandable if you don't quite believe that. Okay, fine, fair enough. I don't know if I have lead in my water. I mean, I do, because my place was built in 2005. But get a free test from the city, and you can even get filters for the lead that you can install on your fixtures, and I believe that's also something you can get through 311. So yes, there's a program for that, and that's how you access it. So, for the tens of people listening, you're welcome.
Patrick, how do people get hold of you if they want to find out more about this?
The 311 app. No, not the 311 app. That would be, good luck. That'd be interesting. Find me on social media.
We're going to hack that app. I'm getting you on there.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. And we're going to talk about hacking in just a moment, because I know
All right.
Joey he is frothing at the mouth on this one. Find me on Instagram, Loftus_law. I hear you. We'll get to you, Joey. Calm down. On what? On TikTok at Loftus Law. Loftus, by the way, is spelled L-O-F like Frank, T like Tom, U-S like Sam, in case you're listening and not watching.
Sounds good. Joey, please.
Yeah, Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694, since I failed to mention that again. The VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com. You can find me across all my socials as at the VA Loan Nerd. You can call or text me at 630-235-2405.
And Matthew, please, how do they get hold of you?
Oh, I'm an easy one. Matt Thomas Real Estate. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, and Thomas is the third T. 3 T's right in the middle there.
And be careful finding him on TikTok. He has got
some
couple of
imitators.
One of his imposters tried to catfish me. So, he must be an important guy if people are trying to,
What comes with the social following is other people trying to steal that social following almost immediately.
That is amazing.
So
you almost
Matt
need a
Thomas,
full-time crew.
If Matt Thomas tries to reach out to you about crypto,
I don't sell crypto.
It's not him.
Yep.
It's not him.
I'm not offering any program where you should give me any money right now.
This is wild.
I love it. And then throwing out my plug, my name is Charlie Bellefontaine, and I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors, that's plural, O-R-S, and it is a .com. We also own Home Inspection University of Illinois. That website is www.hiuil.com. And if you're interested in learning more or joining the home inspection profession, please reach out. My phone number is 312-544-9180. And Patrick, you brought up the subject of house hacking.
Well, not exactly. What I was meaning to segue into is that Fidelity, which is the parent company of Chicago Title, Fidelity National Title,
big.
a number of other title companies, we're talking about 40%, if their numbers are to be believed, of the closings taking place
It's
each
a huge
year.
market share, 40%.
This company has been targeted with a ransomware attack. Their systems have been down for, I believe, over a week now.
They're shut down.
They
shut
actually benefited
down.
from the holiday, I think, because they didn't have closings on Thursday. They didn't have closings on Friday. They had some time to try and figure it out. And still, Monday, Tuesday, didn't turn it back on. So.
No, they are being absolute. So this is a major problem. Joey, tell us. You're the one who's got boots on the ground as far as working very closely with title companies. What's going on over there?
Yeah, so we have put on hold any closings that are happening under the umbrella of Fidelity or Chicago. Under Fidelity. So what is happening is a lot of canceled title orders moving over to new title companies. So your closings are going to be delayed like a week if that's the case. But it's potentially a shorter time. No, you got to go back into underwriting if you're clear.
It might be it might be a major problem for you if you had everything set up, your move, your everything set up for
movers
this week.
Financially,
everything is
It's also the end of the month. How many people
was
are
very
coming up on a
naive of
lease
me.
end,
Yeah.
or how many people have already? Yeah.
So not the end of the world, but some major problems for 40% of the transactions that were meant to close within this time frame.
It's amazing. I guess I'm way out of the loop at the tail end of the transaction. I'm in on the beginning one. Joey, sorry I interrupted.
No, it's fine. But files are also going to have to go back into underwriting for an updated clear to close because now we have entirely two new title docs. Oh my God, I didn't even thought about this, but title invoices. Like we have RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act rules that we have to follow where now we have disclosed certain title fees that those are going to change. If they change by an aggregate amount of 10% or more, then the banks are on the hook for the overage if there's an overage. So there's a lot of things going on, man.
Yeah, it's
well,
pretty
and
chaotic.
here's the thing that it concerns me. They seem to believe, truly and sincerely, Fidelity, from what they're putting out, seems to believe they're going to solve what's happening to them.
They would have already solved it if
Yeah,
it was easy.
I mean, how many of these ransomware attacks have you ever seen that don't end with somebody paying the ransom?
Well, I have seen one that didn't pay the ransom. They shut down.
Yeah,
All right, this is a legitimate thing. And then you want me going off on a tangent?
Yeah.
This is where I want my federal
Kinda.
government to jump in.
Do it.
All right, this is where we need to be protected. You know, citizens. It's just like our military. You know, I don't want some other country coming in here taking over the United States of America, but they're doing it. They're doing it to our businesses, and yes, we need protection, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm off my rant.
Nah, Charlie, you bring
Activated.
up a good point, you know, and now, you know, we can get into questions about net neutrality and, you know, how much influence do we want the government to have in the free flow of information. You know, that's a debate that,
There's a
you know,
whole lot
we
to
don't
this,
have
yeah.
time for, quite frankly. But, you know, it's not being, I think, widely enough disseminated just how disruptive this whole situation is for Chicago Title. And at the bare minimum, if their plan is to eventually pay these folks, they've got to close the back door that these folks got into before they do that. I don't suppose that is a simple thing to do. So I don't know when this is going to get resolved. Maybe by the time we walk out of here, I'll have a message from the title rep at the title company I use, who is under the Fidelity umbrella, and yeah, I may have to be moving some files to some other place. But it could also drag on another week, 2 weeks. Who knows?
Well, what are you going to do as an attorney for your client? How are you going to protect your client? What advice can you give other attorneys? What action should you be taking? And Joey, you get ready. And same thing, Matthew, you get ready. I'm coming back at you two with the same question.
It is a great question because, you know, at first blush you go, look, you know, my first reaction is to put out any fires this has caused, right? I got to move files from, you know, one title company to the other. Joey's got to go through all sorts of compliance in connection with that. But going forward, I think is even the more an inquiry that requires more thought, because how am I going to advise my client if they say, hey, you know, I heard this thing happen with Fidelity, Chicago Title, whatever. And by the way, Chicago Title, we're sitting here in Chicago. Chicago Title is a national brand. You can go to California, Texas, you know, all sorts of places and close at a Chicago
They're a
Title.
big
So,
company.
you know, let's not, you know, make the mistake of thinking that's local. But going forward, what am I going to respond to my client when they ask, hey, do you order title through Chicago Title? And I'm going to say, no, but, you know, the title company I typically order from is under the Fidelity umbrella. And they're going to go, hey, there was a data breach, and, you know, and we don't know what we do know, and what has been disclosed is that there has been some customer data that has escaped.
Yeah.
Not on its own. It was assisted, you know, by the hackers entirely. So what's my response going to be? My response is going to be, well, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, I can order elsewhere, or I can head that off by ordering from another title company. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. It really depends on how well Fidelity is able to rebuild the trust that we've previously had in it. This is a big deal. I can't
Very
ignore
big
it.
deal.
I can't ignore it.
Joey, you got anything to add with that?
Man, I like when it comes to that. Obviously the big thing for me is, you know, trust your attorney. I don't want you to lose money. At the end of the day, the attorneys are setting up title on these transactions. We really just depend on title to get us, you know, their invoice, the protection letter, the actual report, so we can see all liens. But I would prefer, obviously, in these situations, we got to switch. It's just, I mean, yeah, you really don't have much of a choice.
The longer you wait, the harder it gets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the thing. When a problem arises, solve it. Solve it fast. Solve it. Like that's it, right? I'll take the blame. I don't care. Obviously, I know it's a title problem. Maybe someone gets mad. I'll just be like, hey, you know what? This is my fault. I don't care. Let's move on. Let's solve it.
I would just send them a link to, you know, the reporting that says, you know, this was it Black Cat is the, you know, the name of the organization
Right.
that claimed responsibility for this. But
and whether
Joey,
it was them or not, it doesn't really matter. Right?
It doesn't matter who it is, right?
It really
happens.
doesn't. This is beyond fixing this problem in the short term. The long term is that, I don't want to trigger Joey, but the CT, that's what we call it here in the business, Chicago Title, Fidelity, whatever you want to call it. They're all the same thing, really.
Such a bad acronym for them, CTE.
Well, no, CT, that's not great.
There's
but
a lot of other ways to go there.
They're going to have to win back our hearts and minds, as far as that trust. I mean, that trust has been broken. And, whatever, they need to be the most secure place out there, right? All the money is flowing through these organizations. Anytime you buy or sell a home, all the money flows through an escrow company, and that's these companies issue title insurance policies and they handle the escrow part of it, which it's just a fancy word for they take all the money in and they pay it out based on what the figures say.
I guess that's why I side with Joey, though, right? Now that trust is broken, if really, truly, let's think about what title does, is exactly what you explained. They're taking the money and they're processing the transaction. We can't trust that they can take the money and hold it securely right now. That's like the
correct.
base function of. So I guess I side with Joey. My recommendation to my clients would be switch title off. Why would we even wait to see what they have to say at this point?
Well,
until they can give us a security report that tells me they're in a very secure position and we have no concerns, and here's exactly what happened, here's the diagnostics, we've closed the loop. What's the upside in waiting for me in the transaction? Because now I don't owe Fidelity anything.
No.
I don't know Chicago Title anything. My clients
Is that what you're
need
doing
to close. It hasn't happened to me yet where we've had to make a change, thankfully. But I will tell you that I have peers this week who walked into Chicago Title on Monday who didn't tell them that this was happening and just said, we're going to have some delays today, we think, and had clients sitting around all day.
That would rub me
went
the wrong
home
way. That
and
would
still
very
didn't
upset
close,
me.
right? And now to me, I understand to some extent, we don't understand, we don't want to panic everybody, let's see if we can figure this out. But also, your obligation is to the consumer. And if you know with a relative degree of confidence that closing isn't happening that day, why are you wasting everybody's time to show up? And why is the communication so unclear that they, should be making other options?
I agree 100%. I could tell you stories, and it's usually the lender, Joey. Not you. I'm not trying to throw you under any buses, but there are lenders who are less professional than the VA loan nerd, and I've had situations where I've sat in a closing for 6 hours. And come to find out, there was a problem that we weren't going to be able to solve, and the lender knew about that problem that wasn't going to get solved.
Nope, never going to happen. That's stupid.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was
triggered.
I was absolutely apoplectic that this, and I let him have a piece of my mind. I'm normally pretty, calm, cool, and collected because that's what you expect out of a lawyer. But I was like, you cannot do that. And I hate it when lawyers bring in you know what I bill out for every hour. It's like, no, you don't. You don't bill out every single hour every day. So no, I'm telling you. But at the same time, my time is valuable. So if you took
and our clients' time is
everyone's
valuable.
time.
Everybody cleared their
100%.
day to make that closing work. They're expecting to transition title. They're expecting to come through. They have movers aligned. They got utilities changing. It's not insignificant.
That was the exact point I made. I said, you wasted my time. You wasted that closer's time. You wasted your customer's time.
Yeah.
And you know what the problem was on this one? It was such a dumb problem. The appraisal came back, and it had the address as street when it should have been place. Oh. And so the appraiser had to come back and replace street with place
and
in
then
order
resubmit and re-underwrite.
And they couldn't get a hold of the appraiser. And so meanwhile, we're all sitting, they wouldn't say anything about this. This only came through that's my tangent to bring up. But anyway.
If the PIN ID matched, I would have done that as a prior to delivery freaking condition. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
No, you're fine. You hit it on the balls. It goes right. I hit. Whoa! I said
What
that
the
wrong.
frick is going on with Charlie?
I don't know, but that was not what I meant to say. You hit it on the spot.
Forest through the trees,
Yeah, right.
you owe Devin a Starbucks
But
card after
the only
this.
thing that's going through my head is I don't want to do your job. I don't want to have to look for those little PL or ST or AVE. That's very detailed, and I really don't want to get in there out of all those documents.
It makes you crazy. And, the people sitting in this room and on this podcast, we all get it, and we all handle ourselves in, the most professional way possible. And, we just go on and on about this every week, about how many people are in this industry who just don't meet the standard.
Yeah.
They just don't.
That's why they come and go so much.
Well, and that's the problem, and that maybe that is the problem that needs to be solved is that the minimum standard is not good enough, and a lot of people aspire to the minimum standard. It's not good enough. It's
well,
not
that's
good
a function of, and I'll only speak for real estate agents because that's what I'm licensed in. We have made the minimum standard way too approachable for people to be real estate agents. The bar is so low, and we see it. It didn't catch on at first. They lower the age, they lower some of the testing requirements, but now, a couple years into that change, I deal with it every single day when I'm managing two parts of a transaction because the other party is a speed bump, not an asset, and their client has no idea because
I'm
the
gonna steal
clients,
that one.
Clients only get what they're told. So on their side, they're being told, "Oh, we can't close on time because we haven't gotten all the docs we've needed." And on our side, they never made requests or they've never talked to us. We haven't heard from them in 2 weeks. You know. And so there's just this miscommunication that can so easily exist with so many parties in a transaction that bad actors can do pretty much nothing the whole time. Yeah. And we can either work around them and pull off a miracle, or it all falls apart and they go, well, it wasn't my fault, Yeah,
and that's what I talk about when you talk about them actually, doing your job, to a high standard, as opposed to doing the bare minimum. And the result with the bare minimum one will often be the same. The house gets sought, the house gets sold.
Oh, you can close a really bad transaction.
Definitely, definitely. And I have people trying to close bad transactions on me all the time. And then I'm the alarmist in those situations. And I'm just raising all the red flags. And they're going, why? I want to buy and they want to sell. Why can't I? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but there's a $50,000 problem. Plus, I'm being modest about it. That if you want to buy this place as in its current condition,
their
you get
choice.
$50,000 problem. Like, well, I don't want to do that. You go, well, then we're not closing. We're like,
everything is a choice. I try to remind everyone on both sides.
Their
everything
choice,
is a
though.
choice. You can make a choice,
and they're negotiating with somebody else who has a choice.
They
So
all
whether
have
you're
a
the buyer
choice.
or the seller, both of those people have the choice. And you guys correct me. I think our job is to make sure that all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and that we educate our clients enough so they make an educated decision.
Correct,
Definitely.
and that's where you draw the line, because I think too often people fill in that definition with our job is to help them make decisions, but they'll make the decision for them. I don't ever tell my clients what to do. Never.
That's
right?
what actually infuriates me when I see real estate agents doing that.
I will give you the
You're not
data
gonna do this.
to
You're not
make
gonna
a
do that.
decision.
That's
I
our
will give you
job.
everything I can tell you that I believe. I'll share experience if it's relevant.
I'm getting
but I am
mad love
not
for you
going
right
to
now,
tell
Matthew.
you
I'm sorry.
what to do. Yeah.
Well, here's the worst one, to me. So, you talk about the one who's gonna, try to, put their thumb on the scale and make someone make a certain decision. And, I'm probably guilty of that from time to time, where I see just an absolute, massive red flag that is gonna dog these people for, years as they own this home. And I go, if it were me, I wouldn't be doing that. Sometimes they take my advice, sometimes they don't. But the person that I'm most scared of in terms of what the outcome for their clients is going to be is the person that goes, hey, it's up to you to make this decision, and that's as far as it goes. They say, how much should I offer for this property? Do you have any advice on it? Well, what do you think? Well, I don't know. What do you know about the market? It's like, well, they're asking this. What do you think you should offer?
Right.
And,
But that's his job. That's Matt's job.
I know, but I'm saying that's
but there are several
not
people who don't know how to answer that question. That question is probably the one I'm asked the most. What should I offer for this home? I get asked almost every transaction at some point.
How do you answer it?
So this is where I think you draw the line between a good agent and maybe a not so great agent, right? When I'm thinking about what you should spend for a home, is none of my business, and I'm not going to tell you. My job is to tell you what I believe the home is worth considering the fair market value. I will give you a range of values looking at the data that is available that I'm fairly confident the home will appraise for that sale, and I feel matches the data available in the market. You need to have a conversation with your lender that aligns with that so that you understand what you're comfortable spending. And then you and I are going to reconnect. We're going to compare those two numbers. In an ideal world, what you want to spend or what you're comfortable spending will match or be close to what that home is worth.
But don't you
Anything
do
we
that before you
negotiate-
even show them houses too?
You can't. You can't do
Really?
it for every home, in my
Okay.
opinion. Because if I have people who send me
That's
20
too
homes
much
they want to
work.
see, I can't do.
All right.
I can't accurately run 20 comparative analysis and stand behind it just for the sake of time.
Let's just ask ChatGPT.
I guess
You know.
where I was going with, and Joey, help me out here. Do you have conversations with the clients as well when they get their, and again, forgive my ignorance, pre-approval or pre-authorization?
Pre-approval.
Pre-approval. Thank you. Joe, you have conversations about affordability and how much money they should be borrowing. Do you not?
Always.
Always,
The most important piece is how much are you comfortable spending every month on your mortgage? Because
Exactly.
no one cares what you bought for. You care about what's coming out of your wallet, out of your bank account every single month, because that's where you're going to feel it.
Joey says
You have
borrow
to-
the max every
Joey
time.
does not say that.
Oh
All
my
right,
gosh,
You
man!
can spend it. Why
throwing-
wouldn't you?
I love pushing those buttons. Man, I'm the worst.
That's right. It's a bunch
I
of
don't
malarkey.
believe that, Joey. I think you should advise
So,
your
yeah.
clients
Joey,
better than that.
tell people why what I said is incorrect.
Buying for your max is a great way to hate me next year. It's a great way to, have a small hiccup in life where you take on a new debt because you got injured, where you lose income because you got injured, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool, I'm now not able to afford my mortgage. I am going to get foreclosed on.
Or the
Why did
furnace
they let
goes
me do
out,
this?
Or the finished basement floods.
Right.
It turns out that you only like to shop at Whole Foods because you hate life and you just want to spend your entire paycheck on Whole Foods rather than your mortgage.
Such a
You
good
guys
salad,
didn't
though.
know you're talking about my first home, right? Did I ever tell you that story?
Did flood out?
No, it
In
didn't
the brook?
flood out, but the roof leaked. Yeah, so I mortgaged to the max everything
Yeah.
that I had. I borrowed
Yeah.
as much as I could. I put down everything that I had. I had no money left over. I move in and the roof starts leaking. I just got married. I go and ask my in-laws for a
Let's
loan.
get some caulk.
So I cock. Oh my God, you behave. I asked my in-laws for a loan. They go, don't worry, I'll take care of your daughter. And by the way, could I have a few grand to put a new roof on the house? And here I am, some super. Well, then it was a concrete guy and a framer, but that's beside the point. But it does happen, and
Yeah.
and a lot of people do overextend themselves.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think to your question is, aren't you doing that work up front? We try to advise it, but the reality is most people don't do the real estate transaction in the ideal order. Many times they see the home, they fall in love, and then they're running the numbers in the background. It's not ideal, but it happens all the time.
In our area, that happens all the time, quite a bit.
And it's just part of it is the speed of the market. Part of it is people don't think they're ready, and then they are. They see something they love, and they weren't ready for all the decisions that comes with that. But I think really the only way you can ever review things is the data itself, right? And the data is what can you spend comfortably? That's your affordability. What's it worth in the marketplace? That's running market comparable data. And then the other third one that I do think is relevant is you should look at the median market negotiated price. If things in the area are selling at 98% of list, you making an offer at 20% off is not reasonable.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're
That
just
is
wasting
gonna get-
everybody's time.
Could you do it?
It's just gonna get
Absolutely.
kicked
And
back.
if you really want to push on it, I will represent you through that. But I want you to understand it's not statistically reasonable to make that offer. And I
Yeah.
think some of that is client education.
Take all the negotiation books you read with a grain of salt. Every negotiation takes on its own flavor. But typically, with home buying and selling, if you're gonna offer them that. What is it? We're setting the. I'm gonna mess up all the lingo, but we're gonna make that 65% offer with the idea that we're gonna bump it up to 85 and then 95 and then 100, which is something I read just the other day in a book. Ain't gonna work in real estate because that if you offer 65% of the purchase price to a seller, that seller's gonna hate your guts, and you've just blown it, and there's no way to save it. So
Yeah.
I'm using a more extreme example. That may work in when you're buying a car. It's not going to work in a real estate transaction. There's too much emotion involved.
Now, on the flip side, I coach sellers that no offer is an insult because you never understand where someone's coming from. Maybe that's the most they can spend, and they just had to put it out there because they want to put it out there, right? But no offer is an insult. It's a disagreement of value, and we can try and get to the middle on that, but they're not insulting you because they're offering less than you want.
But I think that's where it comes into, both agents on both sides of transactions have a conversation.
Yeah.
Get that stuff out there.
Right.
You
And
know?
I think it's fair to say, look, I understand this offer's low. it is the best my clients can do.
Yeah.
That's a fair thing to say. It might be rejected, and it will only go so far. But at some point, the reality of the situation is what it is.
And I want to kind of see if I can tie up the loose ends on what we've been talking about the last 10 minutes, because the point that I wanted to make is that there's a big difference between the bare minimum, which will get someone into a bad house more often than not, and someone that is actually doing this job at a high level.
Yeah.
If you're bare minimum going like, hey, you tell me what you want to offer, and what do you think? Should I offer this? Sure, go ahead, and writes the offer up, and that's that. That is so much different than what Matt just described to us in terms of what his process is. This is the high standard that I want the real estate industry to achieve.
Thank you.
As opposed to the bare minimum, hey, let me just get to the closing table so I can collect my fee. And hey, if the house is a lemon, well, you know what? That's on you, buyer. I did my job and it closed, didn't it?
Well, and I think, and I said this to you at breakfast this morning, I think the data speaks for itself and how this has serviced my clients. If you look at my buy-side clients, they're negotiating above the mean for Chicago. They're getting more and saving more on each transaction than most people are. And my sell-side clients, same thing. They're making more money and selling in a faster time period than most Chicago sales. And I think that's a result of doing things the right way and
How
approaching
can
the
a
business the right
consumer
way.
find that information, though?
Not sure if it's easy
home
other than
buyer's
if they
hour.
wanted to aggregate it somewhere. What was that?
I said the home buyers.
You talk about the show here.
I wish more people I wish more people listened to this, because this is such important information. And I know this sounds completely self-serving, and it is. And I'm selfish when I say this, but at the same
knowledge
time,
is power.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
I wish we had a bigger place to broadcast. Not that there's something wrong with 820 AM. I love 820 AM. You guys are the best. But just if we had 1 million people hearing this, it would not take long for the real estate industry to really morph into something that is just more professional.
Well, and I think we need accountability on that. I don't think it should be a secret that what my closings are and how the
you're
data
going to get
is.
an applause for that.
Hey, thank you very much. But I think that's the basis of it all in this business, right? I don't hide from the numbers because I think they're a reflection of the good business that's been done. So I don't think other agents should hide from their numbers, and I think it should be easier for consumers to see that stuff.
We've said it all. I couldn't agree more.
Me neither. So, man, I just want to really go out of my way and say thank you. All right, and I believe in passionate people do a good job in real estate. I really do believe there's bad people in our business. All right, and we try to search for the good people. And anybody who is listening, please, do your homework. You want to reach out, you want to get contact information, we're more than happy to help you. But we are running out of time. So quickly, man, I need you to give us your contact information one last time.
Yep, absolutely. If you want to give me a call, my cell phone, direct line, 215-622-4379. Please connect with me on social. It's Matt Thomas Real Estate, and that's MATTT, 3 T's in the middle there. I also have a YouTube channel, which is slowly but steadily growing, talking all about Chicago specifically. That one is Matt Thomas Chi. Chi is in Chicago, CHI. So
Love it.
Please connect, follow. I am always happy to engage on all things real estate.
Sounds good. Patrick, please.
Patrick Loftus, Loftus Law, real estate lawyer. That's important. Find me on Instagram, Loftus_law. Find me on TikTok at Loftus Law.
Outstanding. Joey, please.
Well, this is Joey Mathews, the VA Loan Nerd. You could find me at thevaloannerd.com. Across all the social medias as at the VA Loan Nerd, or call or text me at 630-235-2405.
Sounds good, and we're out of time. I want to give a special thank you to Devin Tingle and WCPT AM 820. And this is Charlie, and I am